My name is Sigrin Newell, and I'm a service associate today. This morning, our service is This I Believe. 3 members of our congregation will reflect on their religious beliefs and Unitarian Universalism. I'd like to introduce them to you. A native of Ann Arbor, Michigan, Kristen Abbas has lived in New York State since 2000. She and her spouse, Jeff, moved to the Capital District in 2011 from Brooklyn with their kids, Ben, who will soon be 18, and Gideon, who is 13. Kristen is employed as a director of event content for Vistage Worldwide, a leadership development organization. She loves people, building community, and learning new things. She is passionate about serving those in need and contributes time and resources to organizations that help the homeless, the poor, the uninsured and ill, and the marginalized and abused. At Albany UU, she serves on the Endowment Trust Board and is an usher and a welcomer.
Sigrin, we can't hear you.
Did you hear yours?
Yes, we're getting a lot of feedback on your microphone.
Feedback.
All right.
Iris Daniels is 18 and was born and raised at Albany UU. Iris has been an active member of the youth group for the last 4 years. She is a senior at Albany High and will be attending Western New England University in Springfield, Massachusetts in the fall as a psychology major. Outside of school, she participates in Winter Guard, a competitive team sport that involves dancing, spinning, and performing. Tom Mercer has been a member of Albany UU since 1981. He has been involved in many aspects of congregational life and has held various leadership positions over the years. Following a career in public service, he embarked on a second career as an independent filmmaker. His latest project, a documentary about Benedict Arnold, will soon be released worldwide by the Legacy Distribution Company. Now, did you hear Kristen's or not? Okay.
Yes.
Onward then. The reading this morning is This House by Kenneth Patton. This house is for the ingathering of nature and human nature. It is a house of friendships, a haven in trouble, an open room for the encouragement of our struggle. It is a house of freedom, guarding the dignity and worth of every person. It is a house, it offers a platform for the free voice for declaring, both in times of security and danger, the full and undivided conflict of opinion. It is a house of truth-seeking, where scientists can encourage devotion to their quest, where mystics can abide in a community of searchers. It is a house of art, adorning its celebrations with melodies and handiworks. It is a house of prophecy, outrunning times past and times present in visions of growth and progress. This house is a cradle for our dreams, the workshop of our common endeavor. The musical meditation this morning is Find a Stillness. It's a Transylvanian hymn, and the musicians are Barb and Dave Metz, Randy Rosette, and Chris Jensen.
Find a stillness, hold a stillness, let the stillness carry me. Find the silence, hold
The sermon this morning is This I Believe, and now we will hear from Iris Daniels, Kristen Abbas, and Tom Mercer in that order.
A major part of life as we get older is devoted to learning who we are and how we fit into the environment around us. How do I define myself? What is my role here? And in the process, the question of beliefs is put into play. We spend a lot of our teenage years seeking the answers to these questions. Defining what you believe and who you are is not the easiest thing to do. I've struggled with this topic a lot and worked through my ideas time after time until I got to where I am now. I'm still not done. I'm always growing. I was raised here as a UU. I was always intrigued by the church. There's just something about it, the songs, the stories, the people, the community. I always felt a connection. When we were in RE class many years ago, I remember being told a story. I don't remember much about this story, just that it was about God, and the moral of the story being whoever or whatever God is, they're within all of us. As a child, I found the story fascinating. I didn't know whether I believed in God or not, but it sounded magical. And now that I'm more grown, I think that what stuck with me the most about the story was not the idea of a God, but the idea of something inside us connecting us all. We all share the experience of life on Earth, and we all have something similar within us that helps us survive. In the case of a God or a spirit, we all have something that guides us morally. A few years back in RE, we had neighboring faiths class. In the class, we learned about all different sorts of faiths around us. We explored history, did research, and visited many different places of faith, such as synagogues, churches, pagodas, and temples. At the end of our class, we took a look back at all the different places we visited and the religions we learned about. Those that stuck out the most to me were the ones with connection to Earth and to each other, but I knew that UU was my home, and this is where I felt I belonged. Before I took this class and had this exposure, I had no clue what my personal beliefs were yet. And it wasn't really until after my experience in this class that I truly started to discover what I believe. I always knew that I didn't believe in a deity or a God. I knew that I loved the earth and felt connection to the rivers, the forests, the plants. I feel most at peace around nature. I loved playing in the brook as a child, and when I got older, lying in the field and admiring the beautiful blue sky. I knew that I felt there was something connecting us, whatever it may be. And this is why I've always felt so comfortable at Unirondack. Being immersed in the beauty of the Adirondacks, its tall trees and pretty lake. At night, if you look up, you could see all the stars sparkle and shine. I felt most in touch with nature there. Unirondack has also helped me build strong relationships. I've become very close with many people there, and if we weren't terribly close, we were all connected. We all understood each other. We all had love for each other. We all shared the common love of camp, and that's what brought us together and what connected us. When thinking about what I believe, the first thing I thought was, you're an atheist. And I used that term for a while and still sort of do. But atheism to me describes what I do not believe rather than what I do believe. I know I don't believe in a God, so what do I believe? And so in my search for belief, I came across the term secular humanism. Secular humanism is a belief in morals and ethics that hold us together rather than a God or higher power. Secular humanists are spiritual and they believe that something connects us. This term really hit home for me because I believe in spiritual connection between living beings and that morals and ethics guide us as a society. At this time, I identify with secular humanism, but I'm still growing and I discover new things every day that I didn't know about myself. My beliefs are constantly changing because life is constantly changing. My spiritual journey is nowhere near over. It has only just begun. I will end with a quote from Marianne Williamson. The spiritual journey is the unlearning of fear and the acceptance of love. Presenting next, Kristen, Abbas.
May I live this day compassionate of heart, clear in word, gracious in awareness, courageous in thought, and generous in love. I found this quote by John O'Donohue many years ago, and it resonated deeply with me. It helped to center me around some core beliefs at a time when I was really struggling to figure out what I believed anymore. A bit of background about me. I did grow up in Ann Arbor, Michigan. My parents had moved there in 1976 with several of their friends from Boston to join a charismatic, covenant, conservative Christian community. As was the case for many people in the 60s and 70s, my parents were drawn to the idea of living more intentionally in a community of like-minded people, oriented toward a commitment to one another and a way of life that they believed would help them flourish amidst a crazy, broken, sometimes evil world. The community attracted many people from challenging family situations, battling many of their own demons, who were searching for a formula for living and believing that would help save them from their brokenness. Over many years, the commitment that my parents and thousands of others had made could not save the community from the same old challenges of leaders who are power hungry and authoritarian, lack of trust, lack of true inner awareness and healing. The community fractured in the late 1980s, and my parents left it. There are some that have come to believe that the organization was a cult and that the theology we were taught was damaging, especially to free thinking, the value of women and children as independent, autonomous humans, and to questioning in general. So over the years since I have moved from my parents' home, life has happened. I went to college as a theater major and then got married, moved to New York City, worked in universities and theaters, and had children. Through all of that, I was continuously exposed to people different from those in my previous life, people who continue to push my perceptions of the world and what is important. I was raised as the oldest of 9 children, and there is no greater training ground for learning to value people as individuals with all of their quirks, idiosyncrasies, and unique gifts. My 35 nieces and nephews add to the beauty of the variety inevitably found in large families. My belief in people, to welcoming, to radical hospitality, was and is founded in my connection to all of them. And over all these years, the faith of my youth, which had been very strong, very passionate, very conservative, and very exclusive, has been slowly and consistently dissolving. It began its final death spiral when my parents, who had been married for 37 years, got divorced. And the death spiral was fully complete when Gideon was diagnosed with leukemia on his 4th birthday, just 4 months after we had moved to this area. I realized that as a person struggling with hardship, as a person who loved people in all of their shapes, sizes, colors, cultures, beliefs, what have you, I was gonna really need to have a better framework for making sense of the world and moving through it authentically. I spent a lot of time thinking about it, pushing the edges of what felt true and authentic to my experience. Could I be an atheist? No. I had experienced too many things over the course of my life to feel that there isn't something that is bigger, something more than just my individual existence. But what was that more? Was it a deity, an energy, the unified energy of all the interconnected beings and nature of the universe? What an interesting question. And I found I didn't need an answer. I am comfortable with mystery, with not knowing. And the more questions I asked, and the more I realized that what really energizes me and drives me in my spirituality, in my relationship to others and to the world, is the questions and openness to hearing what is valuable and meaningful to others. Not that there aren't foundational truths that ground me. I have actually found the 8 principles of Unitarian Universalism to be a wonderful match, which is why I'm here. And when we're open to asking questions of ourselves, to digging deeply into how we can be our best, we grow. When we're open to hearing others, to meeting them where they are, approaching them with curiosity and love, we become open to more opportunity for connection and transformation of ourselves and our communities. Disentangling from my childhood faith has led me to these central tenets of what I believe. Questions are more valuable than answers. Curiosity is more valuable than judgment. People are more valuable than ideas, and what we have in common is more important than what we don't. So the guiding prayer every day is, may I live this day compassionate of heart, clear in word, gracious in awareness, courageous in thought, generous in love. Thank you. Our next speaker is Tom Mercer.
Well, there certainly are a lot of choices in things to believe nowadays. I could believe Trump won the election and the presidency was stolen. I could believe a cabal of rich celebrities and Democrat politicians drink the blood of babies to stay young. I could believe climate change is a hoax, or COVID is a hoax. I could believe the earth is flat. That one's back in fashion, you know. Or here's a new intriguing one gaining believers. We are all in a game simulation. So many things to believe. We are so free to believe whatever we want nowadays that there aren't enough commonly held beliefs to hold the nation together anymore. Yet alienated and lonely people glom on to fringe beliefs so they can feel a part of an in-group. I remember our 4th principle, you know, a free and responsible search for meaning. What is meant by free? Aren't we too free in our beliefs these days? Well, not in the right way. To be swayed by advertising and social media is not to be free. To blindly accept dogma handed down by a priestly class is not free. To insist others believe as you do is incompatible with freedom. Being open to dialogue with people who see things differently is freedom. Our 4th principle would also have us be responsible. It would be irresponsible to knowingly lie. To say something is true when all the evidence suggests otherwise. To knowingly lie for personal profit is the height of irresponsibility. But willingness to change beliefs in the face of new evidence is responsible. The 4th principle would have us search. We don't say we find truth or proclaim truth. The principle suggests to me an open-ended quest without a conclusive end. Truth is a moving target, approached, but never caught. We can draw maps, but the map is never the territory. I believe the scientific method is the best means of searching yet devised. I believe in science. I believe in vaccines. I believe in evolution. I believe humans are animals, mammals, apes. I believe humans are a freak of evolution. In the 3.5 billion year history of life on Earth, no other species has fallen out of its ecological niche and survived. A niche is the range of conditions necessary for a species to live and reproduce. As environments change, species evolve to fit a changing niche. If change is too sudden for natural selection to keep pace, creatures become extinct. Anthropologists think our early ancestors survived a rapidly changing habitat with intelligent adaptations instead of the slow evolutionary ones. They changed diet, built shelters, made clothing and tools, harnessed fire. In other words, they manipulated their environment. They were no longer confined to a narrow ecological niche. That had never happened before on Earth. And whether or not life has taken hold on any other planets, I can't believe that survival after falling out of ecology happens very often. I believe our situation may be so uncommon as to be practically unique. I believe a species cannot survive forever outside of its ecology by manipulating its environment. I believe our only hope is to live sustainably on this precious little planet. To do so, we must rethink old assumptions about economic growth, the value of labor, and distribution of wealth. I believe the whole Earth is a living organism. Years ago, I facilitated a continuing RE class here at Albany UU, where we explored the spiritual implications of deep ecology. I am personally grounded in earth-based spirituality. I appreciate the ancient wisdom and rituals celebrating the Earth's great recurring cycles. And finally, our fourth principle talks about meaning. Meaning can't be searched for the same way truth can be searched for. Meaning is not objective. It is a personal, interior experience. What are inner experiences? Our thoughts, feelings, sensations, and emotions. I believe all things experienced subjectively come and go in consciousness. And I don't believe consciousness can be explained by material brain chemistry. I believe consciousness is a fundamental building block of reality. Everything has an element of consciousness. There can be no meaning without consciousness. I believe as conscious beings, we find meaning in relationships, shared experiences, stories, parables, and archetypal myths. I believe spiritual practice supports the search for meaning. For me, meditation and shamanic trance work, altering my state of consciousness, reveals a reality not limited to the inputs of my five senses. And that is what I believe. Back to you, Sigrin.
An important way we celebrate life each Sunday is by offering an opportunity to practice generosity. Members and friends support our congregation with an annual pledge paid throughout the year. Another way to support the good work of our community is by making a generous contribution via one of the options shown on this next slide. You can click on the tiny URL link in the chat window to contribute, or you can send a text to the number shown on the screen. The examples on the slide show how to label your text to indicate the amount and purpose or intent of your gift. We must now say goodbye to our Facebook friends. Consider joining us on Zoom next time by visiting albanyuu.org. The offertory this morning is Let the Music Mystery Be by Iris Dement. The musicians are POM.
Hi, I'm Jay Holly, and I'd like to share with you the proposed 8th UU principle. We, the member congregations of the Unitarian Universalist Association, covenant to affirm and promote journeying towards spiritual wholeness by working to build a diverse, multicultural, beloved community by our actions that accountably dismantle racism and other oppressions in ourselves and our institutions. The key phrase I'd like to focus on this morning is beloved community. Although theologian Josiah Rice is credited for coining this phrase, most of us know it because of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King's work with nonviolence. Dr. King spoke about agape, saying agape love is seeking to preserve and create community. He also said, our goal is to create beloved community, and this will require a qualitative change in our soul, as well as a quantitative change in our lives. In his speech, Facing the Challenge of a New Age, he said this, quote, "It is this type of spirit and this type of love that can transform opposers into friends. It is this type of understanding goodwill that will transform the deep gloom of the old age into the exuberant gladness of the new age," end quote. This is the power of the proposed 8th principle. In recognizing the harm caused by racism and other forms of oppression, we harness the power of our UU community in creating healing and being a catalyst for change. Our covenant with one another demands this of us. Our journey towards spiritual wholeness demands this of us. We must be the change we wish to see in the world. Thanks. Have a great morning.
This is the time set aside in our service for sharing significant personal milestones in our lives. There are 3 ways to share a joy or sorrow. The first option is to type your joy or sorrow in the chat window. Please put the words "read aloud" at the beginning of your message if you would like us to do that. Please also consider connecting privately in the chat with a pastoral care associate. You may identify the ones on duty today in the participant window. Look for PCA before their names. I'm a PCA today, as well as Dee Van Riper. The second option is to click the raise hand symbol found either in the participant window or under the reactions button. Our technician will invite you to unmute yourself and speak your joy or sorrow. The third option is to submit a joy or sorrow using our website by noon on Friday prior to the service. We'll begin by reading those that were submitted this past week. Then we'll hear the spoken joys and sorrows, followed by the chat entries that are to be read aloud.
Okay, and I have received no pre-submitted forms, but we do have somebody waiting. So Michelle DeRozier, unmute and share your joy or sorrow.
Thanks, Dave. Good morning. I have a joy to share with everyone. Many of you know my son, Adrian, who grew up in the congregation. He is leaving on Tuesday for a minimum of 3 months to go to New Zealand. And you may know that New Zealand is very much cordoned off, but his father is a native, and so he holds dual passports. So he's able to travel on a New Zealand passport, going to stay with relatives and travel around and have an adventure. So he's 25, and I'm very excited for him, and can't wait to hear all about it. So thanks.
Great. And now we move to Phil Rich. So Phil, go ahead and unmute and share.
Good morning, everyone. This is Phil Rich, as you know. I've been battling with mice problems in my building, and building has to work a little harder on making sure the mice stay out. I have spent a great deal of time making sure that we get rid of the mouse smell, and I'm fortunate to have someone from the Schenectady congregation bring his rug polishing machine, and I'm taking him out tomorrow for lunch as a thank you. The other issue is that my building has taken the decision that our windows are forbidden being open all the way. So clips are being put in so that the windows may not be opened. And the reason given is that they are afraid we will die by suicide by jumping out the windows. I have decided to push this, and I have an instigator in my healthcare practice that I go to, whose husband owns a building, and so she's been giving me some inspiration. I thank you for listening. I will mute now.
Thanks, Phil. Anyone else? Seeing none, let's move on to the chat entries.
Well, I have been perusing the chat entries, and I find none that say read aloud. Dee, did you happen to see any? I haven't seen anything.
I think one just came in.
Christine did.
Ah,
At the bottom, be the most recent.
I'm getting here. Ah, wonderful. From Chris Vanderlyn. Her joy is that her nephew is moving to his very first apartment on his own. Congratulations. For the joys and sorrows that remain unspoken, let us hold all that we've heard and felt in our hearts.
Next, we'll sing a Unison Song. The words will appear on the screen. Please enjoy in singing with heart and mind. The words are by Shine, the harmony by Bach. Oh, the words are by Alison Carpenter. The song leader is Elena Karpoff. As we extinguish the chalice, please join in the words shown on the screen. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Our benediction was written by Rainier Maria Brilka. Be patient toward all that is unsolved in your heart, and try to love the questions themselves, like locked rooms, like books that are written in a very foreign tongue. Do not now seek the answers, which cannot be given you because you would not be able to live them. And the point is to live everything. Live the questions now. Perhaps you will then gradually, without noticing it, live along some distant day into the answer. This morning we give our thanks to the belief statement presenters, Iris Daniels, Kristen Abbas, and Tom Mercer, musicians, Elena Karpoff, Barb and Dave Metz, Randy Rosette, Chris Jensen. The pastoral care associates today are Sandy Stone and Dee Van Riper. I, Sigrin Newell, am the service associate. The ushers are Tammy Hathaway, Chuck Manning, Dawn Dana, Jean Poppy. The welcomer is Peter Brown. Technical support is from Chris Jensen, and office support, Elizabeth Baldus and Tammy Hathaway.